guys, welcome to the Treasury Update Podcast Coffee Break Sessions, the show where we cover foundational Treasury topics and questions in about the same amount of time it takes you to drink your coffee. This is your host, Alexa, and today I am joined with Craig Jeffery, Managing Partner of Strategic Treasurer. Welcome back, Craig.
Thanks, Alexa.
Yeah, so today we're going to shift away from some of those security topics that we've been covering, and we're going to dive into unclaimed property and escheat. Can you please give us a quick high-level overview of that, Craig?
Sure. Unclaimed property is, any asset that is not claimed. And in finance, we think of that as if there's an outstanding check, a check hasn't been cashed, or there's unused credits, for the billing process. Those are assets that are unclaimed, or it's considered unclaimed property, and those cannot stay with the company past a certain time. There's rules about that.
Okay. I just immediately thought of when you get a gift card and maybe you forget about it, I think they start to lose value over time. So that's maybe a realistic example.
Yeah, I think the way that they do that is they write the rules so that they can decrease the value so they don't have to escheat it. Now, I just talked about unclaimed property. It's if nobody claims that, or they don't cash the check or use the credit or whatever the other property is, states or other governmental groups say you have to send it in or escheat it. You have to send that value into the state. And if you have, so the example of the cards is if it loses $1.50 a month or whatever the item is, all that money will go away and stay with the company that issued the card. So there will be no property left.
By depreciating or reducing those in value, that would probably save some of the admin work of escheating it. I don't know if that's the correct word.
Well, let them keep the money and would save them that headache too.
Okay. So is it required to do unclaimed property? I feel like it's not, since, we're saying that these gift cards can reduce value, but I just don't know. Are there rules? Are there requirements?
There's quite a few rules, particularly in the United States. There's some other locations where that's becoming required too, largely because it's a great source of additional revenue that politicians have found. Without raising taxes, they just, force that money to come to the state. That's the one core motivation for it. The other motivation is that the state should live on past companies and hold those assets if someone should come to claim them at some point in time. So they do keep records of it so they can provide that value back.
That's interesting. So one of my other questions was, is there an unclaimed property tax? And you had said that they weren't taxed. So I guess, is that a black and white answer?
I mean, there can be penalties for not, escheating property at the right time. There's penalties and interest. So that's just I don't know if it'd be properly considered a tax or a fee, but what's required is, you have certain periods of time where you might have responsibilities to attempt to contact the person, like an individual didn't cash the check or the company didn't take the credit against invoices. And after a certain time has elapsed, it's required that you report, certain information about whose asset it was or whose property it was to the state and remit payment. That
makes sense. So I guess just to kind of backtrack, how does property even become unclaimed?
Well, like if you issue a check and somehow it gets lost or someone sticks it in their file, it never clears. And then you send a reminder saying, hey, this check is not cleared. Or another example might be you issue a credit memo, but the company is, your customer never buys something again. And so the credit's sitting out there and they don't ask for a refund. And maybe the company's closed or changed or something else has happened and they never use it. And now it's reached a certain age that if it hasn't been used, it's considered unclaimed. And therefore that value has to be remitted to the state. Those are a couple examples. Okay.
And then I feel like we've kind of covered it, but what kinds of property can be considered unclaimed?
I think that's well beyond what I can answer. I usually think of it in the status of payables, Treasury, and their responsibilities. But certainly I know there's rules related to items in safety deposit boxes and things like that. There's certain rules that govern that, and that can vary state to state. So I think that's just some general information. I wouldn't be able to give you much more detail on that.
Okay. No, that's great. I'm going to just do a quick recap of everything. So again, unclaimed property is really any asset that's not claimed. So a couple of examples we've used have been outstanding checks or unused credits or credit memos. And then if things are not claimed, the states and the governments require you to really send it into the state through escheating. And then there are a lot of rules and requirements, especially in the United States, around unclaimed property and the escheating process, but they're not necessarily taxes. They're more penalties, or just, if you break the rules or if you're not in the right timeline, then you might have a fine for that. And the things are really put into unclaimed property when checks are uncleared or credit memos are not utilized. That's really the overview of the unclaimed property.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Now, if let's say you're a gym operator and people leave towels or wristbands or whatever, you can't ship that to the state. They don't want that type of property. They won't hold that for. That just stays in the lost and found.
I was going to say that they don't require lost and found items to be escheated. That's great. Well, thank you, Craig, for joining me today. And to all of our listeners, thanks for tuning in this week. And make sure you join us back every first and third Thursday of the month for a new episode. And if you have any topics, questions, comments, or want to reach out to us, you can do that through our website or by shooting us an email at podcast@strategictreasure.com. Thanks again for joining me today, Craig.
Thank you.